Hello, welcome to this presentation from Northwest Soul Quest. I'm Sheila Belanger, one of the guides at Northwest Soul Quest, and this is a presentation on immersion with the wild, be in reciprocal relationship with a nature being. This is a core practice that we offer in our Northwest Soul Quest programs. Love to share it with you so you yourself can go ahead and do your embodied reciprocal relationship with a nature being. Nature is the matrix from which we come, and we are inseparable from that matrix. The natural world is the larger sacred community to which we belong. To be alienated from this community is to become destitute in all that makes us human. This is a quote, very wise quote from Thomas Berry from The Dream of the Earth. Ancient earth-based peoples held that all life on earth is animate, interconnected, and has its own presence. This includes so-called inanimate objects. For example, stones have a very different experience of time than humans, yet are part of the larger web of all life. Courtesy of our ancestors, that deep knowing is in our bones and guides us to remember our sacred belonging with all beings. To enter into a respectful and reciprocal relationship with other than human beings is to embody our true belonging. A conscious conversation is a way to be in reciprocal relationship with any being. And as you will discover in this short presentation, the conversation need not be with words. In addition to sharing a conversation with beings in the wild, such as trees and rivers, we can also share conversations with beings like doors or kettles. Everything belongs. Everything is interconnected. There is a presence in a door as much as there is in a river. And having a conversation with any of them is amazing. Now, there are many possible ways to be in reciprocal conversation with nature beings. And again, it need not be words at all. One of the first ways is with your senses. You can look at these images and just remember what is it like to bite into a crisp apple and the taste you have, to smell lavender or hear the buzzing of bees, to feel wet sand on your naked feet, the seashore, or have your body track the temperature change of a cold waterfall coming on your body, and the prickliness and the scent of an evergreen tree. You can communicate with a nature being just with senses, tactile, smell, sensations. They need not be the 5 primary senses. You can also have a felt sense of things with nature. You can have proprioceptive awareness of your body moving through space and time. Senses are a way to be in communication. Emotions are another way. Perhaps some of you have sometimes gone to the land, a tree, a quiet meadow, when you've been full of feeling. Perhaps upset, confused, angry, sad, and just let yourself lay on the earth or be held with your back up against a tree and just let yourself emote. This is a powerful way to be in conversation with nature, a nature being, is to share your feelings. And all feelings are sacred and welcome. Imagination is a third way of conversation. And this comes about, you have a connection with a nature being and you might find that it opens up something in your being. You have a memory. You suddenly imagine something happening. For example, you might be wandering in a beautiful meadow in spring with wildflowers, and suddenly you imagine the fairy folk are dancing there. Or you're in a dark woods and you can tell that the gnomes are right there, just on the other side of that tree. So let your imagination trust it and follow it and use it as a way to be in conversation with nature. Speech is another direct way, and this is actually using your mouth and your vocal cords. How many times have you been in a forest and you've encountered a squirrel who's just given it to you and telling you how it is? You could go ahead and give it right back to the squirrel and make raucous, chirpy sounds. Or you might respond to Raven, call and respond. Raven gives you its throaty call as it flies through the air, and you give it a raven call back. Or you might find yourself in relationship a stone, and you're actually having a verbal conversation where you say something out loud and you sense another set of words coming back, and then you continue the conversation with actually talking out loud. Speech is an amazing way to be in conversation with nature. Then there's gesture and movement. No words are needed. You raise your arms to the great blue sky and the sun. You have your hands in prayer and gratitude. Your hand touches the tree with gratitude and love. Gesture and movement is an amazing way. You might find yourself facing a beautiful fern in the forest, and you find your body going to the side and trying to curl itself into the same shape as the fern. That's a conversation with a nature being. Gesture and movement. And then there's performing a service. Unfortunately, many of us who have any opportunity to walk in nature, be it a city park, a seashore, a trail, how many times have you picked up trash or recycling to clear that away? That's performing a service for the nature beings. Or the willingness to plant a seedling, to give life back to nature, to appropriately feed the wild ones, and to hold in your heart and your actions ways that you can steward the earth, you can take care of the earth. These are all ways to be in conversation with a nature being. And then finally, there's simple, what we call self-designed ceremony. Sometimes when we have time, solo time in nature, we find we want to mark something. Maybe something's finished. So appropriately and with safety, we decide to build a small fire. Maybe we've brought a piece of paper in which we've written something that's finished. We burn it ceremonially in the fire. Or perhaps we cleanse ourselves with fresh water from a lake or stream. Perhaps we're at a place where two roads converge. And we say, okay, I mark this. I choose to take a path and I'm going on this path. So it can be very, very simple with your actions and your words, but you might find yourself spontaneously wanting to do a simple self-designed ceremony as part of a conversation with a nature being. So here's a way that we like to offer to have an immersion with the wild, reciprocal conversation with a nature being. Stepping in. Part one of this nature practice, this conversation with a nature being, we call the threshold. It's the setup. When you're about to take a wander on the land and engage with conversation with a nature being, it's good to pause and really set your intention. That's what being at a threshold is often about. And a threshold is just the edge between two territories, two states of beings, and you're crossing a threshold. So, first step with this conversation with a nature being is you go out onto the land, preferably a wild or semi-wild land, but it could be a city park or your own backyard. The next step is to find a threshold place in which to let the nature beings know that you want to engage in a respectful and reciprocal conversation with them in whatever way you're going to do that. You might find, for example, you wander a bit and there's two trees that you're going to walk between. Or you're going to leap over a stone. Or you see an old branch down on the ground and you say, as I step across this branch, this is my threshold place. So you set your intention at the threshold. I'm going in. And then you consciously cross the threshold. Number 3, announce your intention to cultivate reciprocal conversation with the nature being. You have no idea who's hearing you. And so just say, I'm coming to have a reciprocal conversation with a nature being. And then the rest of it, part 2, is really the heart of the nature practice. Explore with curiosity this journey of conversation with a nature being. Curiosity is one of your greatest gifts in this journey. So then step 4, after you've done the threshold work, you wander until you are allured to some nature being. It could be a tree, a stone, a pond, a squirrel. You'll know what it is. You might feel a little tug in your heart, or your body just takes you over to some tree, where you go, I'm just going to sit down here in this meadow. Don't try to figure it out. Just let yourself wander to your allured to some nature being. And then step 5, introduce yourself to the nature being and ask permission to share a conversation with them. It's always good to ask permission. It's very respectful. Step 6, start the conversation going by spontaneously finishing this sentence to the nature being. I'm curious about, and then just let yourself finish it. Don't overthink it. Don't try to figure out ahead of time. Maybe it's just, I'm curious what it's like to be that green. Or it might be a slug. I'm curious to know what it's like to move so slowly in the woods. Trust yourself. It gets the conversation going. And then step 7, use your senses, your emotions, your gestures, your imagination, and other ways of communicating to begin and then engage in a conversation with the nature being. Just let it get going. If you feel a little stilted and you feel some part of you saying, this is stupid, what am I doing? Blow that part of yourself a kiss. Tell it to settle down. You'll talk to it on the other side of this adventure. Just give yourself to it. Give it a try. And then step 8 is just what I'm saying. Trust your process. Don't try to figure it out. Let yourself experience what it's like to be in an improv. I'm here with this nature being. We're just having a conversation. And step 9, be open to being surprised. Go underneath what your mind might ordinarily think and beyond what you've ever heard before. A good example of this is, let's say you're with a tall tree and you hear the tree telling you, stand tall. That's nice and all well and good. But you might say, thank you, what else? And maybe some other communication happens that's much more mysterious. And inside you go, oh, that's news to me. It might not have to do with standing tall. It might be unique to that particular tree. Give yourself some extra space to be surprised. Don't too quickly think it's done and you've done it. And then step 10, remember to pause and really open your heart to be in reciprocal conversation with the nature being. It's about connection. And then part 3 is the completion of this nature practice. It's about gratitude and reflection. Step 11, when you feel finished, please offer gratitude to the nature being. We all know how wonderful it is to be honored and to show up and to have the privilege of being able to be connected to nature is amazing. So in your own way, whatever's congruent, offer gratitude to the nature being. And then, this actually should be step 12, return back across a threshold. The previous one you went across or a different one. So now you're completing the journey and you're going to mark it by saying, I'm stepping out. You may have wandered a while in the land, and when you're done, you're not anywhere near where your first threshold place was. That's fine. Simply look around, find another place. Oh, I'm going to step across that stone. I'm going to pass on the other side of that shrub. That's my threshold of completion. So return back across that threshold. And then actually should be step 13. Take some time to reflect on your experience as completion. You might just sit down and kind of take it all in. You might have brought a journal with you, might jot a few things down. It's really just take some time before you step back into your regular life to reflect on that experience of the conversation with the nature being. So, a reciprocal conversation with the nature being. You can download the PDF with the 12 steps of this practice. Take a look at it, stick it in your back pocket, then go explore an embodied reciprocal conversation with a nature being. You need not follow all these steps. They're just to get you going. But the most important thing is start with a threshold moment, set your intention to be in reciprocal conversation with the nature being. Go in, wander, have the engagement, Try not to figure it out. Give yourself to it. And then when you're done, do a second threshold moment of stepping across after you've offered gratitude. Because we are so blessed to be part of nature and belonging to this beautiful world. It's a journey that is always present to us. Deep reciprocal conversation with nature. Here's a poem to complete that really honors this journey. Mimesis by Fadi Judah. My daughter wouldn't hurt a spider that had nested between her bicycle handles. For 2 weeks she waited, until it left of its own accord. If you tear down the web, I said, it will simply know this isn't a place to call home, and you'd get to go biking. She said, that's how others become refugees, isn't it? Very powerful poem that honors the call for deep reciprocity in all our relationships, but particularly with nature beings. So thank you. This has been a presentation from Northwest Soul Quest. Please come explore more nature-based soul discovery experiences with us. You can join our mailing list and come into one of our programs. Information is at our website, www.nwsoulquest.co.